Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this month's edition of our FranNet webinars, your local professional trusted franchise experts, both Charlie and I. And today we're going to talk about kind of a main decision that our clients make as they pursue business and franchise ownership to kind of see which avenues are going to be the best bet for them. And so we're talking about being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So quick introductions real quick before we kind of get into the meat of today's presentation. A little bit about myself. Been in franchising for many, many, many years, multiple decades, actually. I'm one of the principals of FranNet. And Charlie here will get in a little bit more detail of what FranNet is and what we do. But I am one of the main principals up here in Pacific Northwest. I mainly work with clients in Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. But I got my start down in Southern California many, many years ago in helping people purchase franchises. And then my original start in franchising was back in the mid 80s, believe it or not, with a company called Mailboxes, Etc. at the time, which is now known as the UPS store. My family and I were multi-unit franchisees and master franchisees with Mailboxes, Etc. in the UPS store. And then there actually should be one more bullet point on there. My wife and I just purchased yet another franchise here in Oregon, a company by the name of Stretch Lab, which is part of Exponential Fitness. And we just launched that company here in the area, about 2 months ago. So
how's it going, Blair?
Tens of thousands of people go into franchise. I'm not tens of thousands. I've helped hundreds of people go into franchising, but FranNet has definitely helped tens of thousands. Charlie, how about yourself?
Well, let's see if I can. There we go. Great to be with you today, Blair, as always. I'm Charlie McGee. If we haven't met, I'm FranNet's market president and franchisee in Washington State. I'm also the senior franchise consultant with IBA, which is the Northwest's oldest business brokerage. I just received my 10-year handsome wooden plaque from FranNet for my FranNet years. And before coming to FranNet, I spent a long time in management and operations and training with a couple of national franchisors, Pearl Vision and Sonus Hearing Care Professionals. So that gave me a lot of great perspective on what it takes for a business to work. I just ended a 2-year term on the Franchise Advisory Council at FranNet, which was a good experience. And I've been in this Puget Sound since 91. I moved here right after graduating from the University of Texas, and I've been here, raised my family, have a great network in the Puget Sound and in Spokane. And when I'm not working on my business or spending time with my family, you might spot me at a golf course. So great to be with you.
Congratulations, University of Texas and Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, I know. It's great to see a Longhorn put on a colored jacket different than burnt orange. Also, throw this out there, on my slide and on Blair's, you'll see a QR code. And if you just take your camera and hover it on your phone over that QR code, you'll get a really easy 5 or 6 question survey on today's event, an invitation to receive a couple of helpful resources. No big deal. Our point today is just education and introduction, and start to help you see if this is something that could be a fit. Also, so with that in mind, FranNet, which in case you're not familiar, we've been around for over 30 years. There's 100 locally based consultants in Canada and the US. We've got strategic partnerships with organizations like SCORE and SBDC committed to helping entrepreneurs. So as matchmakers, education is a huge part of what FranNet offers. And the FranNet website, frannet.com, is a wonderful place to go to learn about franchising and some examples of brands that are out there. And it's a way to connect with us individually as well. As far as our agenda today, it's pretty simple. Where are you right now? And where do you want to be? Is there a gap? Why do small businesses fail? And some statistics around that. We could flip that for half full. What is it going to take to be successful? What are your options? And from a research perspective, if franchising is in fact maybe a good idea, a good strategy for you, what's a 4-step plan for researching that thoroughly? So Blair's gonna talk to us a little bit about, how career pathing has changed.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. And just a couple quick notes there before I jump into this. I think the main emphasis that Charlie and I want to share with you is that we are local. We understand the Pacific Northwest. We understand all the professional resources here. We understand if you are looking at certain territories, which territories are better than others. So just know that. And two, as that agenda said, have your phone ready because those QR codes will pop up at the end, and you'll be able to get in contact with Charlie and I, as well as get a copy of this presentation, and as well as a booklet that we'll talk about here in a minute. So the roadmap to success. Look, the traditional career path, if you look back 10, 15, 20 years, it was you went to school, you got educated, you got your degree, you started your job, you stayed in that job as long as possible, hopefully achieved your goals, personal and financial, and then you're off to retirement. You may have changed a job or two, but that was the basic career path for many, many, many years and many generations. Right now, this is what it looks like, which is just kind of all over the place. Whether it be transitions from, recessionary economies or COVID-19, career paths are just all over the place, and people are confused and not really achieving what it is that they've ultimately wanted to achieve out of their careers. Or, mainly our clients for Charlie and I, and really for FranNet's clients across the country, they're just burnt out on corporate America. And that's kind of the main reason as to why they're coming to us saying, hey, I want to be in business for myself, but I don't think I want to be in business by myself, because I've never done this before. It is a goal of mine to be in business. I just never done it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know which way is best for me. But most importantly, I want to make sure I'm making a safe and wise decision for not only myself and my family. So what are the different options?
Blair, don't you usually hear that too from clients that are in their, I'd say like late 40s, early 50s? That's where they're really kind of starting to feel that burnout.
Yep. And there's probably a couple other things popping up now, Charlie, as you know, is we're seeing people that did retire for a couple years and kind of sat back and got tired of playing golf every day and kind of said, well, that sucked. I want something to do. And so they're going into business ownership in some shape or form. But again, they want to do it safely and wisely. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. It's kind of the different options on how to do that. Let me check the chat box here. Got it. Well, good to see you too, John.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about business ownership and kind of the 3 different methodologies of how to go into business, kind of the pros and cons of each methodology. And like Charlie said, we're going to go over some of the stats of what you'll see as far as the different options of going into business. So we're not talking about that traditional corporate career path because it just doesn't exist anymore. So we're talking about going into business and which methodology might be best for you. Charlie?
Yeah, so, 30 million small businesses in the US. And what we've seen over the years is that when there's a major disruption, the Great Recession, COVID, and I'm sure this is going to bear out in a future recession, applications for new business starts go up. People are looking for a way to control their future. And it happens over and over again in each cycle. The number one reason stated for why people want to do that is to be their own boss. They're looking for autonomy, autonomy with their time, autonomy with their team, who they're working with, what kind of customers they want to work for. the old adage of people don't quit their job, they quit their boss. Well, you might quit yourself at some point, but it's unlikely. See if I can advance this, Blair.
You got it.
There we go. So this could be, a discomforting statistic. It's a statistic that's been around for a long time. 50% small businesses fail after 5 years, or said differently, 50% of small businesses succeed and continue after 5 years. So if you're like me, who is or was a kind of a paycheck guy, a corporate salaried employee, reluctant with a family and obligations, and maybe reluctant to take a risk, you want to find every way you can to manage those risks. You're not going to eliminate them, but you can mitigate them by being smart about understanding your own strengths, your own goals, and your readiness to become a business owner. And you have choices. Excuse me. So for the businesses that don't make it past that 5-year mark, or the 3-year mark, or the 1-year mark, what are the most common reasons? Well, the number one reason is cash flow issues. They're undercapitalized, they run out of money, and they weren't realistic enough about the time frame that it would take to reach a positive cash flow position, or the capital needed from the start. Different ways to frame that, but one of the introductions that we make to our clients are funding experts, not banks or lenders, though that becomes part of the conversation also, but funding experts, people that can really help someone look at their own circumstances and help determine, what are maybe the best fits and what might they be qualified for. The second reason is there's not a market need for that business. Blair, I've been with FranNet 10 years, you've been with FranNet 25 years. Is it fair to say that really over the history of all these years, we have had a huge focus and dominance of our curated inventory of franchisors are need-based businesses? There's very few, they're almost is the key word, but nearly all need-based businesses that,
yeah, I would agree.
So we address that. And then the third reason, they don't have the right team. So finding success through others. If you're someone who has in another role been a team builder, understands something about performance management, and has hired and fired, then chances are there may be a franchise concept, a business that could be a good fit for you. All right, you want to take it here, Blair?
Sure. So you basically have 3 different options from going into business. You can start a business from scratch, you can buy an existing business, or you can buy a franchise. Now, the vast majority of our clients purchase a franchise. Obviously, that's what we specialize in, but we do have some clients that purchase some existing businesses. But let me kind of go through the pros and cons of each methodology. So starting a business on your own, look, it's the most entrepreneurial thing that you can do. It's the way every single business on this planet started, whether it's Tesla or FranNet or Google or McDonald's, it doesn't matter. It's somebody had an idea and they started a business from it. So the tough part about starting a business from scratch is you got to create everything. You got to create everything from the brand name to the colors of the logo to what's your accounting software to how do you get clients, how do you grow this business. Where do you start? You don't know how much this business is going to cost to run. And so therefore, why the cost may be lower because you're not getting a franchisor involved or buying an existing business, the risk level is very, very high. And that's why you see a success rate only being about 50% of starting your own business. So I've always told people that start business from scratch and are successful, my hat is off to you, because it is the most entrepreneurial thing to do. And it is very, very hard.
And it's fair to say that's starting business by yourself.
That is starting a business by yourself. Correct.
Yeah.
Not, so it's by yourself. Yes. The second option is buying an existing business. Now, look, buying an existing business is probably the safest way of going into business because you're able to look at a tangible asset. You're able to look at the books and records of the business. The business is already up and running. You can look at its cash flow. You can look at its financial results. You can see the staff there. So the risk is less compared to starting a business from scratch. However, the cost is higher. Look, you're buying somebody else's asset. Their goal was to eventually sell this business one day, and you're going to buy it from them. And so their goal is to sell it for a premium. And so, yeah, you're gonna spend more time, spend more money doing that. But like I said, it probably is the safest way to go into business. You can work with somebody like Charlie, who's with IBA, in addition to FranNet, to help you look at existing businesses. Also, FranNet, from time to time, if we find a good existing franchise that is for sale here in the Pacific Northwest, we'll definitely let our clients know about it. Yeah. The third option is becoming a franchisee. So look, it is the safest way to go into business. It's the way I describe going into franchising is for people who, like we said in the title, if you want to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself, you want a playbook to follow on how to properly run this business. And it is a playbook that has been proven. It has been rewritten and revised to make it better and better every year from the franchisors. And so, like I said, most of our clients will elect to go the franchise route because they want that, like I said, that recipe or playbook to follow so that their chances of success are much greater. Because like I said, the whole goal here is to try to reduce the window of risk as much as possible so you make a safe and wise decision. So the time to get into the business, it's relatively low. The ramp up time is low. The cost is, yes, it's generally a little bit higher compared to starting a business from scratch, because in franchising, we're not going to get into the weeds too much on this. But we can later on if you want to. There's franchise fees, there's royalties involved in franchising. But I think you'll hear from most franchisees is that they will say, look, it is well worth the cost of the franchise fee and the royalties to kind of get that jump start of going into this business and having that playbook to follow. And that, I guess that.
Blair, if I could just add, having just come back from our conference and hearing just the latest from, over 100 of our franchisor partners, the way they are leveraging technology, especially to improve their value proposition, what it is that they're offering their franchisees, and what it would cost an individual business owner to replicate what they're doing. It just gives me ever more confidence in those top brands about what they're doing and how they're doing it, and confidence to share with my clients. I
would agree, Charlie. And I think most of our clients skip what would you call it, a step in franchising that they don't, the reason is they just don't think about it. To me, and I don't know about you, Charlie, yes, you get a lot of support from your franchisor. To me, I think you almost get more support from your fellow franchisees in a franchise system. I mean, look, you and I work together. We have our whole West Coast team that we work together to help support each other. And so a tremendous amount of support comes from your fellow franchisees because you're all in this together. Okay, you want to take it away? Takeaways and resources, Charlie?
Sure. So there's so many considerations to make, and just for today's program, we thought we'd just kind of throw out kind of a back of the envelope approach, and these are your necessities. There's such a thing as nice to haves, and there are must haves, and you want to have a clear idea of what your must haves are. If you're going to take this risk, make a change, get on a different career path, you want to make sure that the business you find, can accomplish this. So like, for instance, your work-life balance. For me, I was a traveling corporate guy. I was gone all the time with a young family. And I just thought there's no way I can sustain that and live my values in the way that I'm doing it. So I have to find something where I can be home at night for the most part, and local, and be the father to my children and the husband to my wife that I want to be. So that was on my must-have. We hear this. I think 98% of all the clients, the hundreds of clients I've worked with over the years, have all indicated as important that they want a business that has strong potential for growth. That's part of why they're getting into it. They have confidence in themselves. And if they can implement and execute a proven business model that has potential for growth, that's important to them. Another thing is, and this is kind of three ways of kind of looking at the semi-absentee element to franchise ownership. And that could be, is there a business that I can manage a manager, keep my corporate job, or manage a manager with the idea that I'm going to become more involved in the business later, but I'm not ready to leave my corporate job just yet. Or I have other ventures, maybe a consulting firm, maybe another business, and I'm looking at a franchise opportunity as either a bolt-on or just a way of diversifying my interests and my investments. Also, recession resistance. I touched on this before, but FranNet is a huge believer in focusing on recession resistant businesses. Interest rates are rising, inflation is high. I'm not an economist. I don't play one on TV, but people, are murmuring, there could be recession ahead. So how's the business going to perform during that time? Also having a good understanding of your readiness financially. How much do you need to make, and how soon do you need to make it in order for this to make sense? And what kind of liquid outlay are you prepared to make, for the right opportunity? And this budgeting planning discussion is part of what Blair and I can help someone or a family who's very early in the process, and they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what kind of options are out there. Let's just kind of start with where you are and then determine what your options look like. Blair, why don't you take this next one?
Okay. So we're big believers in working with local experts. And like I said in the beginning, Charlie and I are local here in the Pacific Northwest, and we understand the market. There's other resources that we work with very closely here. There's a small business development center, so Service Corps of retired executives. So know that, hey, there's not only us, there's also other resources to help you get this done. We can refer you to local business brokers, also attorneys, CPAs, you name it. And what a lot of people have the habit of doing when they start looking at franchises, and I kind of assimilate this to looking at houses, is usually one of the first things people do is they go on the internet and start sniffing around, right? It's just natural buying behavior these days. Be careful. There's a lot of franchise, a lot of businesses that can look very good online, but more importantly, it doesn't mean that they are a good fit for you. And that's what Charlie's and I's job is to help find the right fit for you based on who you are, your background, your skill sets, your needs, your wants, your desires. And every single one of us on this webinar today have different things that we want and need and are good at. And so we probably all look at different businesses. So just know that Charlie and I are here to help you out. And God, it wasn't even on one of the slides, Charlie. I think people should know that we're paid by the franchisors. We're not paid by the general public. So we're a free service to you to help you get this done if this is something you want to consider now or possibly in the future.
I would throw into that. Yeah, think of, we're sort of like retained executive search.
Sure.
The franchisors are paying FranNet a placement fee if we are able to provide a match. So we're truly matchmakers. We have people raising their hands and, hey, I think I'd like to be my own boss, own my own business. I've always had kind of a interest in franchise, let's take a look at that. And but our clients are not ever going to pay us a fee. We'll get paid by the franchisor if there turns out to be a placement. And I'm glad to say, we've been successful doing that over the years.
Yeah. You want to go through the 4
Yeah,
steps?
sure. This is a simplification of the overall process, but think of it as an education. You don't start off in buying mode. You start off in learning mode. You want to learn about franchising in general. You want to learn about what we recommend as some potential fits. And that starts with the franchisor. They have their development teams. Sometimes those are in-house development people, and sometimes it's professional development firms that the franchisor has hired to help them grow their brand. And we can help you understand that better, but it really comes from them. They're going to be in the best position to educate you about the basic business model, the unit economics, the marketing, the operations, the training and support, etc. And they have a defined process that they'll take people through. Once you have a good understanding of the business and you feel like, hey, I can connect the dots here. I think this could be a good fit. You're going to start talking with existing and sometimes past franchisees. This is something you can't do when you're looking at an existing business. You just have the seller. And of course, in a startup, there's no frame of reference for that. But this is really part of the secret sauce of thorough strategic exploration of franchises is the validation portion. And franchising is a regulated industry. The franchisors themselves are very limited in what information they can share with you about your earning potential. Franchisees, existing owners, on the other hand, don't have that restriction and are free to share their anecdotal experience with their budgets, their forecasts, what was surprising, what ended up costing more than they thought, what was less, why they ramped up faster or slower than expected. And all of that information is going to help give you a clearer vision of what you might expect. If after going through the validation, you still feel like, hey, this is kind of checking my boxes and I'm gaining confidence about this as a potential match, then probably at that point, the franchisor is going to invite you to a discovery day or a meet the team day or a confirmation day or something along the line where you would, during COVID, it was done virtually, and now it's kind of both, but you would go and usually meet face to face with that franchisor team, the principals. And this is a two-way interview. The biggest piece of quality control that any franchisor has is who they award franchise licenses to. And if they don't think that you're a good fit for that brand, that organization, then they're not going to vote to award the franchise. That's another benefit of working with Blair and I, is that we're not going to set you up to fail. We're going to match you with those opportunities that really are a good fit. Finally, let's say that goes well and you're kind of both on the same page and would like to move forward as a franchisor, franchisee partner. You're going to want to talk with some professional advisors, a franchise attorney, talk to your CPA, just make sure your funding is in place and we can help with those local introductions. Ultimately, Blair, wouldn't you say, our goal is for clients to make a informed, confident, fact-based decision about whether to go forward or not to go forward. But if they follow our process, chances, our experience is that they'll have that confidence.
Yep. And I think what's really cool about this process, and by the way, we have this in a booklet called The Roadmap to Success. It's a 25 page booklet that Charlie and I can email to. So you'll want to have your phones ready to grab the QR code so that we can send that to you digitally here shortly. What was my point? Oh, so my original point was, the cool part about this research process that FranNet has created over the years is that you're able to do a lot of unbiased research and it doesn't cost really anything. The only step that might cost money is maybe 3 and 4, but you won't do steps 3 and 4 until you're absolutely sure this is the business you want to do and you feel like you're making a good decision.
Yeah, maybe an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So now's the time to get your phones ready as we kind of wrap this up, as Charlie and I promised to keep this to about 30 minutes. So we want to thank you for your time. If you're in Oregon, Idaho, or Alaska, you will want to scan the QR code to your left. That is for me, Blair. If you're in the state of Washington, you'll want to scan the QR code for Charlie. And if you don't know where you are, if you're not in one of those states, feel free to choose either one and Charlie and I will sort it out. There's our contact information if you want to email us directly. But we want to thank everybody for your time. We hope this was helpful for you. And we really thank you for attending. Charlie, any last note?
No, I would just say, business ownership is an adventure. Blair and I are guides to help, kind of show you the way. And it's not for everybody. I mean, I know we've both had clients that think, hey, this is something I might want to do. And sometimes they get to the end and think, you know what, this really, I don't have the risk tolerance, or, maybe they don't have the support of their spouse. It could be any number of reasons. And I've had countless clients come back to me years later and say, Charlie, remember when we talked about, this concept or that one? Let's talk about it again. So my circumstances have changed. And just in the last 2 years, I've had clients come to the end of their journey and make a decision to move forward when we started the original conversation 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yep. So it's another benefit, I guess, of working with guys like Blair and I who have been here and will be here for you. So great to meet you. Thanks for being with us today.
You got it. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Enjoy the rest of your days, everybody.